From the start menu with a giant bloody D, a cryptic old castle, and a cloud of bats flying around, that D probably stands for Dracula. Just a thought. D is the story of a dad who doesn't want to admit that he wants to see his daughter. He repeatedly tells her to run and escape, but makes it impossible for her to leave by locking the doors behind her immediately before trying to talk to her.
Laura, go back. Go back. Go back. Now.
I'm trying to! Oh, well, I guess you're just gonna have to find me. Oh yeah, he's also a mass murderer who's holding hostages inside the hospital that he runs, so that probably explains a few things. The only way he can get you to visit is to kill a lot of people and create a hostage situation so you'll finally feel obligated to see him. You're a student from San Francisco, yet you're driving such a fancy car that the only explanation is that you're daddy's little girl. Once you arrive on the scene, the whole hospital shifts into that of a medieval castle. The doors are firmly closed with no escape. Your very unenthusiastic father beckons you to leave, the sound of the front door key echoing as it dangles in his hands, locking you in. You realize he's very lonely and you ought to visit him. Laura realizes she spent a little bit too much time visiting friends in Santa Cruz and starts having an acid flashback after seeing a beetle figure come to life. She hallucinates about food. She probably has the munchies, that's all. And the game of D begins. Oh god, does it begin. You'll soon become accustomed with some of the worst movement controls ever created. The 3DO could not handle rendering 3D rooms in real time with as much detail as this game required, so everything is pre-rendered. Because of this, you don't actually move around the rooms as much as you tell the game you want to go that way, where it'll give you its vague interpretation of that way. There are specific points in the room that serve as places where you can stand, and from each of these points, tapping left or right rotates you to the next valid path you're allowed to take. Unfortunately, when a room has a lot of things in it, you can't get to everything from every point, and it's not always intuitive where you need to stand to get where. The game itself is extremely easy, being very short with almost no action. Most of the puzzles seem very esoteric and bizarre. There's a wall of spikes you have to get past, so you need to find the crank to turn a wine cask in order to remove the spikes. Then you find another locked door that requires a ring from a guy who locked his own hand in a safe that you have to pry out using one of the most frustrating minigames imaginable. But when in doubt on the puzzles, essentially caress the door for clues. As we continue on, we notice our main character probably realizes her dad is not actually going to kill her and just wants to make her feel scared and glad to see her dad in the end. Sadly for him, her pure lack of emotions or care seems to hint that he's done this before, and she's just getting it over with. To be fair though, the game has some pretty good atmosphere when your character isn't on the screen running everything. When it's just you in first-person mode running around, the scenery is pretty creepy. Throughout the game, you may or may not run into these acid beetles, which give you a very trippy flashback of memories long forgotten. You slowly get hints about the truth about yourself, but sadly you only get these if you're lucky. The beetles are random if they decide to spawn or not, often not appearing at all on certain runs of the game. There's 4 of them in the game, but I've only ever been able to get 3 out of 4 of them despite having a guide open telling me where they spawn. It's really frustrating when you're trying to 100% a game that just doesn't let you do it. Upon reaching disc 2, it sends you to an extremely annoying room that rotates when you rotate a wheel. The issue is you need to get to 1 out of 8 rooms where you have to rotate it, wait for the animation, back away from the wheel, rotate, walk up to the door, open it, see that it's the wrong room, close the door, rotate back again, and grab the wheel again. Repeat. Most of the time in my run was probably just in this room alone. Oh man, I bet you thought this game had no action. Remember when I said it had almost no action? Quick time night fight! Play as an unenthusiastic San Francisco girl battling against adversity as she fights against a medieval knight. Screw genre consistency. After 4 button presses, you push him into a hole and reclaim the lost sword of Dracula. No, not really. It's really just a key. We're going back to the slow puzzle genre. To reach the end of the game, you must break a stained glass window. But how? Your hands? No. That heavy sword in your inventory? No. The busts from earlier? No. Oh, I got it. A gun. A gun can break glass. In whatever game, we'll find you a gun. Not just any gun, the gun of buoyancy. This gun is so light it makes chests sink after you remove it. This must be the secret of killing Dracula, buoyancy. So you break the window, climb a ladder, then you have a final trippy flashback that reveals the truth. Your mother didn't pass you the food fast enough at dinner, so you stabbed her and ate her arms. You thought having more arms would allow you to eat food faster, but you soon realized that was probably the drugs talking and you were going to be wanted for murder. Thankfully, Daddy took care of it and erased your memories. As you confront him, you realize your father is the reincarnation of Dracula. Oh, fuck. He goes on with completely off lip syncing and terrible voice acting.
I feel myself changing.
And Dracula takes over. Dracula. According to the author of the guide I'm reading, he will show you the true meaning of D.
Now I will tell you everything.
You have two options. You can give your dad a hug and he'll be happy. Oh, and he'll consume you so that Dracula can be reborn, so immortality and all that.
Thank you, Laura.
Or you can make your dad stop killing people for hugs and just shoot him. Doing this, he thanks you, realizing that shooting him was probably a good idea. He imparts with you his last dying wish.
My last wish is that...
Oh. Well, I guess that counts as open-ended. I guess that counts as open-ended ending. You cry a single tear, your pores sweat a single tear, and the hospital returns to normal. Now sit back, enjoy the unfitting guitar music, and the game complaining that you didn't get enough Beatles. Fuck you, game, I eat people.
What are you doing? Laura, 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 Laura,